In the extreme northwest corner of Montana, the cool forested mountains are bright with autumn's hue. Aspen and larch announce the changing of the seasons in a place where the Kootenai River flows down from the Canadian Rockies on its 485-mile journey to the Columbia. Along its bank, BNSF's Northern Transcon carries a steady stream of rail traffic in a tradition dating back to the days of the Great Northern. This is BNSF Railway's Kootenai River Sub. Running between Sandpoint, Idaho and Whitefish, Montana, the Kootenai River subdivision is not often visited by rail fans, but is a great location to catch a wide variety of trains working through the rugged mountains just south of the Canadian border. Seven Idea Productions paid 3 visits to this line in different seasons to give you a real good feel for the area. High-priority Z trains race between Chicago and the West Coast. Long double-stack trains work back and forth across the busy sub. Unit coal, grain, and crude oil trains are seen daily as the mountains thunder with the sound of hard-working diesel locomotives. The top of the grade is marked by the 7-mile-long Flathead Tunnel that was bored through the mountains in 1970. It's an exciting journey through the Rocky Mountains of northern Montana. Join us now for BNSF Railway's Kootenai River Subdivision. The Kootenai River Sub runs through the mountainous region along the top of the Idaho Panhandle and northwestern Montana. It stretches 183 miles between Sandpoint Junction and Whitefish and is part of BNSF's busy Northern Transcon, connecting Chicago with the West Coast. A 60-mile stretch of the railroad follows the Kootenai River, which flows both into and out of Canada, providing a water-level route through the Cabinet Mountains. We will be traveling west to east, beginning in Idaho at Sandpoint Junction, on the east end of the busy corridor known as the Funnel. The tracks head north to Bonner's Ferry, where they meet the Kootenai River. The line then heads southeast into Montana, following the river through Troy and Libby. At Jennings, it leaves the Kootenai River behind and climbs through the Salish Mountains on a steady 1% grade, reaching the summit at the west bore of the 7-mile-long Flathead Tunnel. From there, it is a downhill run to Stryker, and finally Whitefish, located on the west side of Marias Pass. Our tour of the Kootenai River subdivision picks up where our program on the Funnel left off. The old Northern Pacific Depot in Sandpoint, Idaho basks in the late summer sun. The nearly 100-year-old building is slated to be restored and is a nocturnal stop for Amtrak's Empire Builder. Looking to the east, a loaded Montana Rail Link coal train comes to a stop near a signal bridge at Sandpoint Junction. It will wait for a westbound before entering the BNSF. The approaching grain train is coming off the Kootenai River subdivision and will make an evening run over the busy funnel. If you listen carefully, you can hear the train pounding a diamond located a mile to the east. Unit grain trains consist of 100 cars or more and can weigh upwards of 17,000 tons when loaded. This heavy westbound has 2 additional radio-controlled locomotives on the rear. We get a glimpse of the units as they cross a bridge over Sand Creek and Highway 95. With the grain train out of the way, BNSF's Boyer West dispatcher aligns a switch at Sandpoint Junction, and the coal train gets a signal to enter the Spokane sub. 2 EMDs, an SD70 Mac and an SD70 ACE, pull with a combined 8,300 horsepower, while 2 more engines bring up the rear. This train originated at one of several mines in Wyoming's Powder River Basin and is bound for the Roberts Bank Export Terminal in British Columbia, Canada. The BNSF 8869 West is coming off the Montana Rail Link, which operates on over 900 miles of former Northern Pacific track in Montana and Idaho. The regional railroad serves mainly as a bridge line for BNSF, with MRL crews both switching and operating BNSF trains over their territory, as well as serving local industries. Sandpoint Junction marks the western terminus for Montana Rail Link track. However, MRL trains travel as far west as Spokane. This train will follow the grain shuttle to Hauser Yard, around 47 miles to the west. Between Sandpoint Junction and Boyer, Union Pacific's Spokane sub crosses the BNSF on a diamond located at milepost 1402.5. With a blanket of January snow on the ground, BNSF 4982 West leads a Chicago to Tacoma vehicle train over the diamond. The vehicle train continues west over a bridge and past Sandpoint Junction, just out of view to the right. Within a few minutes, a southbound Union Pacific train gets permission from the BNSF Boyer East dispatcher to cross. A pair of EMD SD9043 ACs slowly bring a Canadian grain train over the diamond. UP's Spokane sub runs between the Canadian border at Eastport, Idaho, where trains are interchanged with the Canadian Pacific, and Fish Lake, Washington, where the Ayers sub continues south to Hinkle Yard in Oregon. Grain, potash, and mixed manifest trains are seen daily on this line, as well as a local job. We watch and listen as the grain hoppers pound the diamond. A third 90 Mac brings up the rear. The signal at West Boyer shows a solid yellow or restricting aspect for an eastbound BNSF local. The former Northern Pacific route to Spokane was connected to the Great Northern Transcon at Boyer as a result of mergers which created the Burlington Northern in 1970. BNSF 4118 East leads a Seattle to Chicago Z train through the junction as the crew heads for Whitefish. An old GN cantilever signal bridge stands guard at the east end of Colburn, a 7,439-foot siding, as a westbound manifest passes. Moving to the other side of the tracks, a red over lunar signal shows for the BNSF 7654 West, and we watch as the ballast train takes a siding on a rainy morning. Continuing railroad east, the rain turns to snow as we close in on the northern tip of Idaho. A family of bald eagles are perched in a cottonwood tree overlooking the tracks as a westbound Z train rolls through the curves between Elmira and Naples. The Kootenai River sub heads compass north to Bonners Ferry through the Koocanusa National Forest. An eastbound vehicle train approaches through the trees behind BNSF-9 number 4824 and CSX GEVO number 725. Union Pacific's Spokane sub loosely follows the BNSF as far north as Bonners Ferry. The tracks can be found through the trees just above the BNSF at a place known as Shiloh Station. If you look carefully, you can just make out a southbound grain train in the trees in the upper left of the screen. The hidden train blows for a crossing behind a ridge, and the throb of 3 SD9043 ACs reaches us above the slow-moving vehicle train. At the west end of Naples, the line passes under 2 bridges, one of which carries Highway 95 traffic north to Bonners Ferry. BNSF 5288 East leads a manifest past a 9,577-foot siding, sounding bells and whistles for numerous crossings. Union Pacific also passes through Naples, although the name does not appear on their timetable. Moving a few hundred yards to the east, a southbound manifest with a solid set of Canadian Pacific power nears milepost 97.5 as it rolls through town. Remote-controlled CP-8710 shoves on the rear of the train as it ducks under the highway and disappears around a curve. Classic searchlight signals still guard the east switch of Naples, while new LEDs face outward, waiting patiently to be cut over. A westbound Z train passes by at track speed. We again return to winter and set up along the snowy banks of Deep Creek, where BNSF crosses a bridge between Naples and Moravia. It was a slow day on the BNSF after a derailment on Marias Pass closed the main for several hours. The first eastbound of the day crosses the bridge. After crossing the creek, trains disappear into Deep Creek Tunnel 10.2, just out of view. The following day, westbounds were again rolling, and BNSF 6630 leads a Z train out of the 479-foot tunnel. After exiting the tunnel, the BNSF flies over the UP as both railroads head for Bonners Ferry. A northbound manifest led by UP 8256 heads through the short tunnel and over Deep Creek on its way to Canada. Here is the same scene in August as an eastbound BNSF grain train running 1x2 exits the tunnel and crosses the UP. A northbound UP grain train passes irrigated farmland as it approaches Bonners Ferry. The scene is interrupted as crossing gates are activated at Bonners Ferry on the BNSF for an eastbound Z. The BNSF 4118 East rolls into town on the number 2 track, while grain cars continue to shuffle by on the UP. The line is double-tracked for 5 miles from Bonners Ferry to East Crossport, and dispatchers often make meets at this location. BNSF 5199 West ducks under a new signal bridge on Main 1. The train slows as the head end approaches the switch at Bonners Ferry, indicating there will soon be a meet. We take this opportunity to get one last look at the UP line, located on the other side of the grain elevators. This is where the UP and BNSF go their separate ways. The track in the foreground does connect the two railroads, but is not often used for that purpose. It's a chilly afternoon in January of 2013. A manifest waits in the siding as UP 8303 North approaches with an empty potash train. Two more SD 9043 ACs are on the point. The units have been common on this route and are specially configured to operate as lead locomotives in Canada. However, at the time this scene was shot, much of UP's fleet of SD90s were about to be sidelined after cracks were discovered in their frames. Northbound trains are often held at Bonners Ferry, as this is the last siding measuring over 6,000 feet before reaching the Canadian border at Eastport, just 32 miles away. The manifest we caught at Deep Creek waits on the main for a southbound local. The whine of dynamic brake fans announce its arrival as it crosses the Kootenai River with 9 lumber loads in tow. As the local continues south, let's resume our eastward journey along BNSF's Kootenai River sub. It's a warm, sunny afternoon in August, and we are located along the section of double track between Bonners Ferry and East Crossport. A local landmark is this old woodship burner, which was converted to a grain elevator many years ago. It frames a shot of a westbound back and oil train as it passes the site of an old sawmill on Main 2. The lead unit, BNSF 9100, looks like it's ready for the wash rack. Eastbound double stacks pass behind the train on the number 1 track. 2 miles east of Bonners Ferry, a set of crossovers are located at control point CP 1366.3. From here, the railroad will follow the Kootenai River for the next 60 miles as we soon enter the state of Montana. A family of deer walk along the far bank as the sound of an eastbound is heard approaching the crossovers. The train slowly makes its way toward the end of double track at East Crossport, where it'll wait for a westbound before continuing to Whitefish. East of here, the river and the railroad wind through the Cabinet Mountains via the Kootenai River Canyon as they head for the Montana state line. This is a scenic portion of the railroad with very limited access. A westbound grain train rumbles out of the canyon west of Katka. From a hill overlooking the river, we take in a great view of the fertile valley around Bonners Ferry, with the forested Selkirk Mountains in the distance, heading north into Canada. Down below us is the end of double track at East Crossport. A stack train met our last grain train here, and the crew is having troubles with the lead SD75M's computer displays. The BNSF 8255 has been shut down and will be restarted after a few minutes to reboot the system, much like you would do on a home computer. This gives us a chance to look back at where we've been. Using a long lens, we can easily see the town of Bonners Ferry, 5 miles away. We can also make out the old wood chip burner and an eastbound empty grain shuttle, which is slowly coming up behind the stalled stack train. With a plume of smoke, the 8255 comes to life, and to the relief of the crew, the computer screens are again working. Soon the stack train is again underway. After leaving Crossport, the railroad turns southeast through Katka, following the river into Montana at Leonia. An abandoned bridge across the Kootenai River is located on the state line. Most of the bridge is in the state of Montana, while the section closest to the railroad is in Idaho. A Seattle to Chicago Z9, the hottest on the BNSF, approaches Leonia. The train passes in the shadow of Katka Mountain on this remote section of track. The Kootenai River flows down out of British Columbia, Canada, through Montana and Idaho, and then back into Canada. It then joins the Columbia River and finds its way back into the U.S. before emptying into the Pacific. It provides a great setting near Yakt, Montana for an eastbound stack train. We move to the other side of the river west of Troy. This is a 100-car crude oil train from the Bakken oil fields of North Dakota, heading for an export facility on the west coast. These trains average around 6,000 feet in length and weigh approximately 15,000 tons. While visiting the Kootenai River sub, we usually encountered one per day in each direction. Westbound trains experience a slight downhill grade as they follow the course of the river. Moving down to track level, a Chicago to Portland Z nears the west switch of Troy beneath Kootenai Mountain, which is shrouded in fog. Returning in the summer, BNSF 9862, an EMD SD70 Mac, leads a westbound past milepost 1339. The siding at Troy breaks a tape measure at 14,286 feet, and a Y-track is located near the east end. Moving to East Troy, BNSF 4744 leads a stack train into the hole for a morning meet. The sun breaks through the fog as BNSF 4833 East comes into view with a mixed manifest train. The Boyer East dispatcher has lined the switch for the main, and a high green shows. The engineer begins notching up the throttle as he blows for the 3rd Street crossing at milepost 1337.4. After leaving Troy, trains pass through the 1,396-foot bore of Tunnel 6, located at milepost 1335.3. BNSF 789, still in classic war bonnet colors, leads a vehicle train out of the tunnel at reduced speed. Just west of Libby, the Kootenai River drops drastically in a spectacular display known as the Kootenai Falls. The high volume of white water cascading through the 845-foot wide rapids is a popular local attraction that was featured in the 1994 film River Wild. A great vantage point to view the falls is a swinging bridge strung high over the Kootenai River Gorge. The bridge was originally built in 1948 by the U.S. Forest Service to fight fires on the other side of the river, but was later destroyed by a flood. It was replaced by the bridge you see today, which is safe from flooding thanks to the Libby Dam. Crossing the river, we set up on the far side of the bridge to catch an eastbound vehicle train as it passes the Kootenai Falls siding near milepost 1332. East of Kootenai Falls, the river is again calm as BNSF 4058 leads an early morning Z train west. The October sun prepares to drop behind the Cabinet Mountains as we arrive at Libby. The town lies in the heart of the Kootenai Valley, with the Cabinet Mountains to the south and the Purcell Mountains to the north. Early snowstorms have left their evidence on some of the higher peaks, and fall colors highlight the scene as an eastbound grain train rumbles through town. While passing through Libby, it is not uncommon to find bighorn sheep or other wildlife wandering through the residential areas. These rams are only mildly concerned of our presence. The first train carrying passengers arrived in Libby in May of 1892, and today it remains a station stop for Amtrak's Empire Builder. The westbound number 7 is scheduled in at 10:59 p.m., while the eastbound number 8 arrives at 5:26 a.m. Today's number 8 is running 2.5 hours late as it pulls into the depot. After a few minutes, the number 8 is again on the move to its next station stop at Whitefish, Montana. Five BNSF business cars bring up the rear of the train this morning. The Snoqualmie River, Rawlins Pass, Lake Superior, Mountain View, and Glacier View. Continuing east of Libby, the railroad follows along the south bank of the Kootenai River for another 12 miles, and at times is completely concealed by the thick forest land growing down to the water's edge. We are across the river from Ripley, a 9,568-foot siding which is mostly hidden from view. Moving trackside, we see the BNSF 9862 West on the main. The train slows for maintenance work ahead, and we move back across the river as another westbound approaches, casting its reflection in the emerald green water. The forest is made up of a mixture of evergreen firs and deciduous larch, which turn a vibrant yellow in the fall. This is the same scene in October. We can see how the larch have really distinguished themselves from the other trees. A former Santa Fe war bonnet leads a westbound stack train between Riverview and Ripley. The stack train will meet an eastbound manifest which is waiting in the hole at Ripley. Fog moves through the trees in the higher elevations, and soon the sound of two hard-working 16-cylinder 4-stroke GE prime movers fills the air. Warriors make good time along the water level route, but will have their work cut out for them on the coming grade up to the Flathead Tunnel. Trackside again, BNSF 4408 leads an eastbound intermodal train through Jennings. The train continues past the west switch of Riverview, which is located just out of view around the curve. On the Kootenai River, this is known locally as Big Bend and is another photogenic location where mountain forests grow down to the water's edge. It's October 31st and the hillside is on fire with brightly painted larch amongst the deep, rich hues of the evergreen. This sets the stage for a westbound oil train as it heads for Libby. The west end of Riverview marks the beginning of a 59-mile line relocation project completed in 1970 prior to the building of the nearby Libby Dam. The southern section of the original GN main line can still be seen branching off to the north as it followed the Kootenai River through Rexford, Montana, and on to Eureka. Both the railroad and the original town of Rexford are now submerged under Lake Koocanusa after the Libby Dam was completed in 1972. The Libby Dam is a massive structure comprised of 7.6 million tons of concrete. It stands 422 feet high and stretches 3,055 feet across, providing electricity and critical flood control for the communities along the notorious river. Lake Koocanusa is 370 feet deep at its maximum and 90 miles long, stretching into Canada. The new 59-mile relocation through the Flathead Tunnel was completed in 1970 between Jennings and Stryker. We can still see where the old line crossed the Fisher River. The first siding is Riverview and is 10,799 feet in length. A westbound grain train rolls down the steady 1% grade in dynamics as it approaches Jennings. The first 15 miles of the relocation follow an older GN route to Kalispell, Montana via Haskell Pass, which was abandoned in 1902. Leaving the Kootenai River behind, an eastbound Z train races through Riverview on a summer afternoon. Trains follow the Fisher River as the tracks turn compass south for around 8 miles before reaching the siding of the same name. A late afternoon stack train coasts downgrade. At Fisher River, the line changes course to a more northeasterly direction. BNSF 5368 takes an empty grain train upgrade with help from a borrowed Canadian Pacific unit. The rear DP shoves the train through a large cut as it continues up the mountain. Fisher River is a 9,769-foot siding. A stack train which has been tied down for several hours due to a work window starts up the 1% grade with a fresh crew. On a sunny fall morning, BNSF 7593 East takes an empty grain train up the hill between Fisher River and Tamarack. A CSX SD70 Mac lends a hand. We return to the same location in the late afternoon as a mixed manifest train climbs the grade with only 2 of its 5 engines online. The evening sun shines through a cut near milepost 1293, and we turn to catch a westbound stack train gliding down the 1% grade below Tamarack. Track speed here is 79 for passengers and 60 for freight. A stand of quaking aspens show off their golden crowns as we arrive at Wolf Prairie, nestled in the Salish Mountains around 10 miles west of the Flathead Tunnel. Smoke rises lazily from a nearby ranch house, a warm and inviting scene since the temperature is only 13 degrees above zero. Wolf Prairie is a maintenance of way base which was added to serve the new route to Stryker when it was completed in 1970. The sound of a westbound resounds in the crisp air just before sunrise. Continuing upgrade from Wolf Prairie, we set up just west of milepost 1276 on a warm, sunny afternoon. BNSF 5986 West leads a manifest down the grade surrounded by brightly colored larch, also called Tamarack. The train continues down toward Wolf Prairie as we head higher up and closer to the tunnel. Just below Rock Creek, a westbound back and oil train has just exited the Flathead Tunnel and heads down the mountain in dynamics with a KCS SD70 Mac right behind the leader. Rock Creek is the last siding west of the Flathead Tunnel and is 9,760 feet in length. BNSF 4754 leads an eastbound Z train past the siding and into the tunnel. 20% of the cost of the Libby Dam project was in the construction of the Flathead Tunnel, which runs over 36,900 feet under Elk Mountain, or just over 7 miles. The manifest with the 2 faded war bonnets we last saw near Libby grinds up the final leg of the uphill climb. As the engines enter the tunnel, they will reach the top of the grade at an elevation of 3,692 feet above sea level. Eastbound trains pass through the tunnel on a gentle downhill grade of 0.46% and a compass heading of nearly due north. Fans are located at the other end of the tunnel and flush smoke and fumes from the bore between each train. During a tunnel flush, the exhaust is forced out the west end, as we can see here. The process takes about 20 minutes to complete before another train can enter. The sun has dipped below the horizon as a short westbound Z train exits Flathead Tunnel. The east portal of Flathead Tunnel opens at Twin Meadows after running under the west flank of Elk Mountain and beneath Fortune Creek, which trickles below us in the foreground. This is the sound of the ventilation system during a tunnel flush. Once the cycle is done, an eastbound grain train exits the tunnel at track speed. The empty grain train continues down towards Stryker, and then on to Whitefish. The Flathead Tunnel is the second longest in the U.S., behind the Cascade Tunnel on Stevens Pass, which is nearly a mile longer. Both operate in a similar fashion, with a ventilation system on the east end to flush fumes from the tunnel. BNSF 6557 West drags a train to the west switch of Twin Meadows. The train holds the main and will be meeting eastbound empty oil cans heading back to North Dakota. The tunnel door is closed and fresh air is forced into the bore, providing oxygen for the locomotives. Soon the door opens, and BNSF 5955 East emerges from the 7-mile black hole. The conductor on the westbound gives the oil train a roll-by inspection, and the engineer goes back to check the second unit, which gave the crew problems coming up the hill. After the oil train passes, the crew of the 6557 must wait another 20 minutes for the tunnel flush cycle before proceeding west. The door finally goes up and a clear block shows as the 6557 West gets underway. The ex-Burlington Northern SD70 Mac puts on a smoke show as the engineer begins notching up the throttle. Milepost 1260.0 marks the location of a short spur track known as Swamp Creek. A westbound Z train led by BNSF 4187, CSXT 7921, and ex-Southern Pacific patched UP 6379 heads up the 1% grade. The Kootenai River sub heads in a northeasterly direction for a 10-mile stretch from Twin Meadows to Brimstone before turning south to Whitefish. Brimstone is the last siding on the 59-mile realignment. BNSF 5712 West takes a stack train past the siding as two AC 4400 CWs tackle the hill. A storm is brewing in the mountains above Stryker as a stiff breeze flows down from the Whitefish Range. This is the eastern end of the realignment completed by the Morrison-Knudsen Company for the building of the Libby Dam. A train order office was built for the new line, but was never used since CTC was introduced as soon as the line was completed. The original line still continues to Eureka and is used by a BNSF local out of Whitefish. BNSF 4752 East approaches the west end of the junction. An eastbound empty coal train rolls through Radnor, just 25 miles from Whitefish. The line continues in a southeasterly direction, passing Upper Stillwater Lake, just north of Olney. From a rock ledge overlooking the water, a westbound passes below us. In the late afternoon, a stack train heads west. Olney is milepost 1236.6. A small wood chip loader is located here and was designed to load chip gondolas from a nearby mill. From the other side of the tracks, we catch the eastbound Empire Builder as it heads for Whitefish. Whitefish is located on the west side of Marias Pass near Glacier National Park. The town developed when the Great Northern built through here in 1904. A westbound Z train departs town, passing Whitefish Lake. BNSF 4660 East rounds a curve, entering Whitefish just after sunset. The crew on this train will soon tie up after climbing aboard at Yardley in Spokane, around 250 miles west of here. A new crew will take this train east over the Continental Divide to Shelby, Montana via the very scenic Marias Pass. A subject of another program available from 7 Idea Productions. A familiar landmark in Whitefish is a Swiss-style building which was once a division office as well as a passenger and freight depot for the Great Northern. Opened in 1927, the depot is still used as an important station stop for the Empire Builder, and today is owned by the Stumptown Historical Society. Our final train, a westbound grain shuttle, arrives at Whitefish for a crew change, and we watch as a 15,000-ton train comes to a stop. The new crew will have to wait for one eastbound before departing, so we elect to grab a shot of the GN 181, which is on display here. The 181 is an EMD NW3 switch engine built in 1942. The 1,000 horsepower road switcher is one of 7 produced by EMD and is seen here painted in the classic GN Empire Builder colors. The eastbound passes as a dense fog settles in. The BNSF 7907 starts to pull as the heavy grain train begins a nighttime run through the mountains, canyons, and valleys of northwestern Montana and Idaho on BNSF Railway's Kootenai River Sub. Thanks for watching.